Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Autism Stories. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Autistic people are the true experts of the autistic experience, and Autism Stories is where we interview autistic people to learn from their stories, experiences, and get their insights. If you'd like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We would also appreciate it if you could give us a positive rating and review, as it will help others to learn about autism stories. I love watching TV and movies, but as many of you know, it's hard to find characters that accurately express the autistic experience in television and movies. And I recently watched an episode of Ada Twist Scientist, which can be found on Netflix, in which Justice Killebrew did a fantastic job voicing a non-speaking character of Nissan. And after watching that, I just really wanted to talk to Justice about this. So Justice Killebrew joins us to discuss this, as well as his keynote at the AAC conference, Communication Always Matters Always, and gives me some fashion tips as well. We hope you enjoy today's conversation. Justice, thanks so much for joining me today. I wanted to start out our conversation by learning, where does your story in the autistic community begin?
My story begins during the time I was still developing. I was about 2. And there was a period where everything was so vivid and was starting to make sense. And then one day everything went black. My mom was welcomed by the small community we had in my hometown in Louisville, Kentucky. They helped build my foundation at Courage House, where they reintroduced the fundamentals to me and made sure my mom and pops had the support they needed.
That's so important to be able to get that support. I read that when you were 11 years old, working with your AAC therapist, you typed that school has no love for your brain. I'm sure there are a lot of ways, but what specific things do you think schools and educators can do to better support non-speakers?
Absolutely. The school system as a whole needs much work. But the type of neglect that is received from the special education portion is beyond repair. Honestly, we need new teachers who truly care about more than making ends meet. We need someone who is passionate about reaching us. It takes more than the surface, and that's something most people in this generation are afraid to move past.
Definitely. And from my understanding, I believe you communicated that maybe around that time that you were uncomfortable typing in front of others, which I think you're far from the only person that probably feels that way. What made or makes you comfortable about typing in front of others? Or uncomfortable, I should say.
Typing in front of others became easier when I realized that I don't type to prove myself. I type to communicate just like anyone else. Everyone is allowed to have their opinions, but those aren't my responsibility. The only thing I am committed to is conveying myself the way I intended and making sure those like me know that too. It also helps a lot that my team believes in me, so I don't have to worry about being worried or miscommunication because I know they have my back. If you are a part of a communication team, always make sure you're their biggest supporter. It always helps to know we aren't in this alone.
And talking about communication, this past year you were the keynote speaker for the International AAC conference, Communication Always Matters Always. I love that. And I'd love to hear what was your message as the keynote to the audience?
The biggest takeaway I wanted from my audience was that we are here. Our mark is already made, and now we will make it last. There's a gap that is slowly being filled, and we are the ones in the front making sure it's happening. It takes a village, and I'm proud to be a voice to my community.
And I recently watched episode of an animated show on Netflix, Ada Twist Scientist, in which you voiced the character Nassan. It was really great to see a non-speaker portrayed on TV. I don't know if I had seen that before, certainly in animation. And I read that where you said that this was a dream come true and that people get to now know what it's like to be you. What do you want them to know in regard what it is like to be you, Justice?
I want people to know that I'm a regular teenage heartthrob that has goals and dreams too. I am glad that Ada Twist, scientists allowed Nassim to be just another member of the family. That's the way it should be. We want love and acceptance just like everyone else. Some people just have other ways to be reached than others. Connection is always the key, and it's amazing to be a vital connection to my community.
Now, from my understanding, you're also a poet and you've written a collection of poems. What's Jay Say? A collection of poems that can be purchased on Amazon. One of the poems in this collection, My Perception of Me, that you wrote, which you say, I'm proud to be me, autistic all, my message to the media, we all stand tall. So, are there ways in which you would like media representation to change, especially for non speaking Black autistic people?
Society has a very vague view of autism as a whole. That is because of the way we are represented in the media and everyday life. My experience in life will be as a Black young man first. There is a certain way I have to exist to be safe and still try and navigate all my different stems and emotions. There is a spectrum for a reason, and it definitely isn't one size fits all. It helps to seek out different types of people with autism just like they do with anyone else living a different walk of life. The more you explore the complexities and similarities between us, the more you'll see we experience autism every day. We are everyday people, and I want to make sure our voices are respected and heard not just with social issues, but within life experience as well.
And Justice, beyond this interview, how can our listeners learn more about you?
Great question. Y'all can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at What's Jay Say Now. And clap all of your #Justice League Essentials. That's what I call my supporters. Shout out to Mama Montoya for the name idea. My book, my merchandise, and any updates on what's to come will be available there. Also, go to my website, what'sjaysaynow.com.
Now, I like to learn from people of all different ages, those that are older than me, as well as those that are younger than myself as I'm getting old. So, you mentioned on your Instagram, which I love, that you're a certified pretty boy. Now, I'm definitely not a pretty boy, but do you have any tips on how an old person like me can become one, or is it just too late for me, Justice?
Even though I got it pretty honestly from my mom and pops, if you stick with me, you'll be a certified pretty boy in no time. All you have to do is dress fly. What's Jay Say merchandise makes that pretty easy. Stand tall with a smile on the face of haters. Always keep your smell good on. That's cologne. And remember that you don't need anyone. You are what they need. That energy flows, and the certified pretty boy swag will flow naturally before you know it.
Well, I've never really been good at dressing fly, but I'll have to grab some of your gear, Justice, for sure. And I really love what you said about energy, because for me, the number one way I communicate is through energy. So I really love that. Just kind of wrapping up, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to discuss, Justice?
I just want to thank you for this opportunity and the time to have a great conversation with you. I want y'all to be on the lookout for new and exclusive merchandise, upcoming content, new projects, and certified pretty boy takeover all year. Thank you for wanting to hear from me. I hope we can do this again.
Well, I really love that you say that. I'll definitely be following you on Instagram, but I was hoping as well that this is the first of maybe many conversations we have in the future, Justice. So thanks so much for joining me today.
No problem. Stay cool.
Thanks so much to Justice for the conversation. To learn more about Justice, please check out the link in the podcast description of this episode. Did you know that Autism Personal Coach provides neurodiversity affirming support by autistics for autistics through our customized coaching? If this is something that you're interested in learning more about, please check out autismpersonalcoach.com for more information. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Autism Stories, and if you did, if you could please tell a friend, foe, or anyone you know about it so they could have the same enjoyable and educational experience as you when listening to Autism Stories, it would be very much appreciated. Until next time, I'm Doug Bletcher of Autism Personal Coach. Talk to you then.